Hello, you are watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sanov and let's see the top stories. International leaders gather in China for largest ever Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Donald Trump says tariffs still in effect after U.S. appeals court ruling says it's illegal. And families of missing Azerbaijanis rally in Geneva calling for UN action. World leaders are gathering in Tianjin for the largest Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in the group's history. Over the next 2 days, they will adopt a 10-year strategy on security, trade, energy and culture, with China's President Xi Jinping presiding. Our own Leila Rahimli is in Tianjin with more.
Hello from Tianjin. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is about to begin here in China's major port city, the largest gathering in the history of the SCO. Over the next 2 days, leaders from China, Russia, Turkey, India, Iran, Pakistan, Central Asian republics, as well as countries from the Middle East, South Asia and Southeast Asia will be meeting under the theme Preserving the Shanghai Spirit, SCO in Action. Chinese President Xi Jinping is presiding over the 2-day summit, the 5th time China has hosted since the organization was founded in 2001. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev arrived in Tianjin yesterday, and today he met with President Xi Jinping. Tomorrow, he will also take part in the SCO Plus session alongside bilateral meetings on the sidelines. This summit comes with weighty expectations. Leaders are due to sign the Tianjin Declaration and adopt a 10-year strategy focused on security, trade, energy and cultural cooperation. The meeting will also issue statements marking the 8th anniversary of the end of World War II and the founding of the United Nations. The SCO today covers 24% of the world's land area and represents 42% of the global population. Its member states account for about a quarter of global GDP, with trade among them expanding nearly 100-fold since 2001. For China, this summit is also a platform to deepen ties. Last year, its trade with SCO countries and partners reached a record $890 billion. Beijing is also offering training in digital technology to joint projects like Beidou navigation system and the International Lunar Research Stations. The stage is set here in Tianjin for important agreements and possibly new geopolitical alignments to emerge from this summit. And that's all for now. I'm Leila Rahimli reporting from China, Tianjin.
Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev held a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Tianjin on Sunday during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Plus Summit. The leaders discussed strengthening their country's comprehensive strategic partnership, highlighting growth in trade, renewable energy and digital economy cooperation. Xi Jinping praised Azerbaijan's role in the Belt and Road Initiative and the Trans-Caspian route, reaffirming China's support for Baku's sovereignty and its ties with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. He also stressed the importance of direct dialogue to secure lasting peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia. President Ilham Aliyev said developing relations with China is a priority of Azerbaijan's foreign policy, reaffirming support for Beijing's positions on Taiwan, Hong Kong and Xinjiang. He noted Azerbaijan's growing role in regional transport corridors and emphasized ongoing progress in normalization talks with Armenia. Both leaders welcomed deeper collaboration in tourism, international organizations and visa-free travel, pledging to further expand cooperation. Azerbaijan and China will continue further development of bilateral economic and trade cooperation. The assistant to the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, head of the Foreign Policy Affairs Department of the Presidential Administration, Hikmat Hajiev, says cooperation between the two countries also covers the areas of artificial intelligence, renewable energy and digital transformation. According to him, China provides technological accessibility for the countries of the Global South.
Azərbaycanla Çin ilişkiləri
Relations between Azerbaijan and China are deepening based on the comprehensive strategic partnership document signed during President Ilham Aliyev's state visit to China. Today, Azerbaijan-China ties are thriving across all sectors. I'd especially highlight the economic trade dimension, where we're seeing over a 40% increase. We're also expanding our transportation links. Notably, there's a clear rise in the volume of Chinese goods moving through the middle corridor, which includes Turkey. Politically, China and Azerbaijan have consistently supported each other.
To help us better understand the significance of this year's Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit and its broader geopolitical implications, I'm joined by Ahmed Faruk Ishik, distinguished political analyst and regional affairs expert. Ahmed, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Ahmed, how would you describe the significance of this year's SCO Summit compared to previous ones?
When we look at this current one, 2025 Tianjin Summit, we can say that it's the largest Shanghai Cooperation Summit ever, because by this year we can see that 20 plus state leader and 10 international organization gathering in Tianjin. And the focus is more comprehensive, covering more different areas this year. So when we look at this year, there's 10 members and 2 observers and 14 dialogue partners. We can say that it's covering 42% of the global population.
Ahmed, what does China's leadership in adopting the 10-year strategy tell us about Beijing's long-term regional ambitions?
For China, it's very important opportunity as a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization hosting this event and the second largest economy in the world, and one of the countries that leader of the green energy, AI, digital economy and space cooperation. This summit is a very good opportunity for China to show its strength as well as build its cooperation, because by last year, China-Shanghai Cooperation Organization trade already hit 512 billion US dollar. So it's the highest ever. So Shanghai Cooperation Organization related trade with global in around the world is already hit 890 billion. So it's China's 14% of the global economy.
Ahmed, with Russia deeply engaged in the Ukraine conflict, how is Moscow positioning itself within the SCO framework?
Moscow, I think the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is also might be an opportunity for Russia to the balance and rebuild its reputation with the rest of the countries that having issue with. So I'm not really focused on Russia's part, but I think it's a really good opportunity to Russia to have the dialogue with the member or observer states.
So the SCO has often been called a security organization. Do you see it evolving into a more formal security bloc, or will it remain primarily a political forum?
I see Shanghai Cooperation Organization as, yes, it's the very beginning, it's a security related, but now it's expanding itself in the different areas like energy. For example, in 2017, Turkey joined Shanghai Cooperation Organization Energy Club, and it's also having new areas, as I mentioned, green energy, AI, digital economy, space cooperation. So those are, I think, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's new areas, and I think really promising areas that countries needs more than security. But more importantly, we need security to build all these new cooperation areas.
Ahmed, but Turkey is not a full SCO member, but plays an active role as a dialogue partner. How does China view Turkey's engagement with the organization?
Turkey's position is very special because Turkey is a dialogue partner since 2013,
yes,
and it's only NATO member with Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So it's very different than a little bit different than other countries. And President Erdogan previously has said that Turkey should join as SCO as a full member. So from this point, we can say that Ankara may see SCO ties to balance NATO with Eurasian diplomacy, but not as an alternative, but as completing the whole story.
So the SCO has been expanding in size. What opportunities and challenges does this enlargement bring?
I think the opportunities is, as I mentioned, this new upcoming new fields like AI, digital economy, and space cooperation. Those areas that countries may have a lot of takeaways from China and import theirs or build some co-joint organization or ties with China. But the risk is we have different approaches. The countries have different approaches to issues like Ukraine-Russia war and the war in Palestine. So those areas, countries have different approaches, but this kind of summit is a really good opportunity to countries to have engage and exchange their ideas.
Ahmet, on the sidelines of the summit, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev met with China's President Xi Jinping, and two leaders discussed expanding their comprehensive strategic partnership. How would you describe the importance of the Aliyev-Xi Jinping meeting in this broader context?
I think Mr. Aliyev's the visit is, I remember that by this year, it's not the first time they are having meeting with.
Yes.
So the Azerbaijan and China relationship is very important in a sense that Azerbaijan is a very strategic country in the Caucasian and Eurasian region for China to expand, and also very important for energy sense. So China is a country that very depend on the foreign energy. So Azerbaijan plays a very important role. For Azerbaijan, it's China as a second largest economy and one of the largest power in the world. It's really important partner to have more global cooperation internationally.
Ahmet Faruk Işık, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insights on this important development. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
A Russian overnight drone attack targeted 4 energy facilities in Ukraine's Odessa region. Over 29,000 residents in Chornomorsk were left without electricity on Sunday, according to Ukraine's largest private energy producer. Fires broke out at some sites and one person was injured. The company said it will inspect the facilities and carry out emergency repairs once cleared by the military and emergency services. During the night, Russian forces launched 142 drones across Ukraine, with air defenses shooting down 126 in the north, south, and east of the country. Former Ukrainian parliamentary speaker Andrei Parubi has been shot dead in the western city of Lviv. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called the parliamentarian's killing a horrendous murder in a social media post and extended condolences to his family. Parubi, once headed Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, died before medical personnel arrived on the scene. Authorities are investigating and in search for the killer. To other global news now, U.S. President Donald Trump has slammed a federal appeals court ruling that declared most of his tariffs were illegal. Writing on Truth Social, Trump called the decision completely wrong and noted that all tariffs are still in effect, warning that removing them would be a total disaster for the country.
We're thinking in terms of 25%.
US President Donald Trump has strongly rejected a federal appeals court ruling that declared most of his global tariffs illegal. Writing on Truth Social, Trump called the decision completely wrong, stressing that all tariffs are still in effect. The president warned, if these tariffs were ever removed, it would be a total disaster for our country. He made it clear that he is counting on the US Supreme Court to uphold his tariff policy. A divided US appeals court ruled on Friday that most of Donald Trump's global tariffs are illegal. undercutting the president's use of the levies as a key international economic policy tool. The court allowed the tariffs to remain in place through October 14th to give the Trump administration a chance to file an appeal with the US Supreme Court. So far, the Treasury Department, the US Trade Representative, and the Commerce Department have not issued an official response. The tariffs at the heart of this legal battle come from President Trump's sweeping Liberation Day package announced in April. They include a 10% duty on nearly all imports, new reciprocal rates on US trading partners, and higher levies on steel, aluminum, and autos. As a result, America's average tariff rate now stands near 18%, the highest in almost a century.
And now to the region. Families of missing Azerbaijanis since the First Karabakh War took their call for justice to Geneva. They staged a peaceful demonstration in front of the United Nations European headquarters, demanding answers about the fate of their loved ones.
The families of those missing in the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict have gathered under the banner of the Karabakh Missing Families Organization here at the symbolic Broken Chair Monument outside the UN's European headquarters. This event coincides with the United Nations International Day of the Victims of Enforced Disappearances. Over several decades of conflict between the two countries, tens of thousands of lives were lost on both sides. For the families here in Geneva today, the most painful legacy remains the fate of the missing. Azerbaijan officially records nearly 3,900 people still unaccounted for. Humanitarian organizations, including the International Committee of the Red Cross and the International Commission on Missing Persons, have been working for decades to identify remains and return them to relatives. Progress has been slow, but dozens of identifications were confirmed this past year.
The chairperson of Karabakh Missing Families Public Union, Kunul Bebudova, shared her personal appeal, stressed the urgent need for answers from Armenia and the international community.
For more than 30 years, our families have lived with pain. They have lost their loved ones and cannot get any information about them. We are demanding from Armenia to provide information to Azerbaijan and to the families of the missing about the burial places of our disappeared. Our lands are mined, and this creates problems in the search for the missing. As families of the disappeared, even though it is painful and difficult, as people who have lived with this suffering for more than 30 years, today we are here together with the initiative of our organization, with the initiative of the families of the missing, to raise our voice once again.
Just 2 days earlier, on August 28th, they were received at the United Nations, meeting with the Secretariat of the Committee on Enforced Disappearances. Families expressed deep frustration with the International Committee of the Red Cross, saying their trust in receiving information about loved ones has been seriously undermined. Among those who spoke at the Geneva rally was a woman whose husband went missing during the Khojaly massacre, the mass killing of Azerbaijani civilians by Armenian forces in February 1992. Her words reflected the deeply personal pain carried by thousands of Azerbaijani families.
My husband is missing. His name is Azad Jabarov. He went missing in Khojaly. Like nearly 4,000 of our compatriots, there is no information about him. The last time I saw him was in the village of Mashali in Khojaly. That day, my uncle was killed when my husband left us that day. From him, only a watch remained with me. On that same day, the watch stopped and never worked again. Nothing remains but memories.
Since the 2020 war, 28 mass graves have been discovered in liberated territories, exposing scenes of mass killings and burials. Families reminded that entire households disappeared together, with 61 families losing between 2 and 7 members each during the First Karabakh War. The protest in Geneva highlighted one clear demand. Armenia must hand over maps of all mass graves so that the fate of thousands of missing Azerbaijanis can finally be known.
The text of a memorandum of understanding signed between Azerbaijan and the United States on 8th of August in Washington has been made public. The document outlines the creation of a strategic working group tasked with drafting a strategic partnership charter within 6 months. Under the memorandum, both countries agreed to focus cooperation on energy investments and regional connectivity, along with defense and counterterrorism, regional economic and trade ties, and artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure projects. The agreement will remain in effect for 1 year with the possibility of extension by mutual consent. Armenian Security Council Secretary Armen Grigoryan has met his Iranian counterpart Ali Larijani in Tehran. The talks were held at the Larijani's invitation and also included senior Iranian official Ali Bagheri. Grigoryan briefed Larijani on the Washington Declaration signed on 8th of August by Armenia, Azerbaijan and the United States. He outlined principles for reopening regional economic infrastructure. Larijani welcomed the peace steps and underlined the need for stability in the South Caucasus. Thousands of visitors flocked to the Istanbul Naval Shipyard on the third day of the Technofest. The festival highlights the country's growing defense and naval capabilities and coincides with Turkey's Victory Day celebrations.
The third day of Technofest Mavi Vatan, meaning Blue Homeland, kicked off with excitement in Istanbul, coinciding with Turkey's Victory Day celebrations on the 30th of August. Held at the Istanbul Naval Shipyard under the coordination of the Turkey Technology Team Foundation and in partnership with the Ministry of Industry and Technology and the Ministry of National Defence, the festival showcases Turkey's naval and defence technologies. Crowds of visitors, many waving Turkish flags, lined up to tour the country's largest military ship, TCG Anadolu, as well as other prominent naval vessels. The festival also highlights cutting-edge maritime and underwater technologies, featuring competitions such as the Unmanned Underwater Systems Challenge, the Underwater Rocket Race, and the Unmanned Surface Vehicle Competition, giving visitors a hands-on experience of Turkey's technological capabilities. The 4-day maritime edition runs until August 31st. Since 2018, Technofest has become one of the world's largest tech events, attracting millions in Turkey, Azerbaijan and Northern Cyprus. The annual 2025 Technofest festival will return to Istanbul next month from September 17th to the 21st.
And the World Health Organization is sounding the alarm on Afghanistan's growing humanitarian and health crisis. It warns that millions of returning refugees will strain the country's fragile system and has urged the international community to provide more funding to meet urgent needs. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
According to a new report by the World Health Organization, about 1.6 million Afghans are expected to return from Pakistan and nearly 2 million from Iran this year. The mass return of refugees is expected to put even more pressure on Afghanistan's already fragile health system. The WHO says 22.9 million people in Afghanistan, nearly half of the country's population, will need humanitarian assistance in 2025. But aid agencies have only planned support for 16.8 million people, leaving a major gap that would require $2.4 billion in funding. The report warns that Afghanistan's health system is especially vulnerable in rural and remote areas, where many communities still lack access to even basic medical services. The WHO also cautions about the risk of disease outbreaks this year, naming polio, malaria, COVID-19, diarrhea, and other major infectious diseases as ongoing threats. With millions returning home and international aid falling short, the WHO says urgent global support is critical to prevent further suffering. For now, Afghanistan remains on the edge of a deepening health emergency. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
That's your news update for now from Baku. Stay tuned to A News for more updates.